Can we come back together? Anybody want to share some things that came out?
Being a mermaid.
Pardon?
Being a mermaid.
I still didn't hear you.
Being a mermaid.
More merman. Why'd you look at me like that, Ron?
I'll tell you later.
I am a mermaid.
Huh?
She is a mermaid.
Pictures.
Yes, they represent the past and good memories.
Uh-huh. Did you have anything?
I do have one, and it's going to sound really shallow, but I'll explain why. The computer, my computer and the internet. And the reason being, because it's how, on so many levels, I connect to my family and my friends and the world around me.
It's not shallow at all.
And if it were to disappear,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
number of people that I would lose touch with would be huge.
I thought of that this morning. I thought,
So,
I did.
It's self-dependence.
excuse me, what?
Self-dependence.
Uh-huh. Anybody else want to?
I'm taking God.
Money? Faith? I heard faith.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
that's what she did.
Okay, faith, God.
I guess that is the whole point here.
Family.
Well, I said not to put family because we take that as a given. Okay.
Learning things, actually. And I didn't even know I was missing it until.
So, you know, I mean, just, it's a small, you know, list because we don't have a lot of time, but we're passionate about different things in life. And, you know, one of the things about being passionate is you take a risk because you lose something. And you know what it is you lose? You lose your old way of seeing yourself. You lose the way of seeing yourself as small. And what psychologists tell us we need to do is to give up our old maps, to give up our old view of the way reality guided us, and to develop new maps. So I just share with you a couple of things from my own life. When I lived in Maine, I've lived in 8 states because I had this corporate career, and I was living in Maine, and my ex-wife and I got divorced. And I had always wanted to live in Southern California. And I had people telling me, come on, you're an East Coast guy, listen to that New York accent, you're not going to go to California. My ex-wife said, you out of your mind, you're going to move to California? So, and I did. And just to make a long story short, I went out a couple of times, I got a job, I got an apartment, I bought furniture, and then moved. I was so anxious to move. I left Maine at 7 o'clock in the morning on Monday, and Thursday morning I was in California. And the furniture was supposed to be delivered, and it didn't come. And so I actually got to my apartment. It was late in the afternoon. So now picture the apartment's totally empty. The only light was the bulb in the refrigerator. And the thought hit me, this was really dumb. You know, if I died in here today, they wouldn't find me for weeks because everybody I knew was on the East Coast. And I started to have a panic attack. And I remembered when I lived in New York, when we had the blackout, the only thing we could do was go to sleep. So I sold everything except what fit in my car. Luckily for me, a sleeping bag fit. So I went to sleep. And the next morning when I woke up, I had this apartment. It was right on the Pacific Ocean. I walked into the kitchen, and it was bright and sunny, and the sun was hitting the water like diamonds. And I looked at it and I said, that's why I'm here. And I never looked back. But it's a way of having a new map. And the other one, which I shared this with Erica the first time we met, I decided to go into my own business. And I mean this quite literally, with one exception. Everybody I knew, every business friend I had told me, you know you're going to fail. You know you're going to fail. You're not going to make it. I was going to do search work, be a headhunter, and I was going to specialize in human resource work. And they said, you know, search firms are a dime a dozen. They come and go. You're never going to make it. And not only aren't you going to make it, but you'll never find another job again because companies are going to say, well, he didn't like the corporate life. He went out of it. Why should we hire him back? The only person in my entire life that stuck with me was my wife. She kept saying, do whatever you want to do. Go for it. You can do it, you can do it, you're gonna make it. And after 6 months, I made more money than I ever made in my entire life, which I actually hadn't planned on this, but I want to tell you something else that's really important when you're looking to live your passion. There was an article, you still might be able to find it, in June 1st Time magazine about resilience. And they talked about 3 or 4 different things that are absolutely essential for people to bounce back. And I think it really works in terms of thinking about stepping out on your own, living from your heart, having your own business. One of the things they said that was absolutely essential was to gather around you a support group. That nobody can be resilient without a support group. And you can ask people. I've had somebody ask me, say, you know, I want to do this and I want to have like a board of directors. Would you be on it? And it's like an honor when somebody comes to you and asks you to do that. And you can ask them for support. You can ask them for ideas. You can ask them for feedback. You can ask them for anything you want. And you can meet with them one-on-one. You can meet with them in a group. You can do it. You know, I'll just give you a small example. On the way here, I'm going to talk about my friend Eddie there in a little bit. But I said to Eddie, do me a favor when we're driving home, give me feedback on what you thought of what I did. You know, it's just, you can't exist without having that. So, because you're going to have a lot of people, like in that first story I told you, that are going to tell you how you're not going to do it, and you can't do it, and you shouldn't do it. So you need people that are holding you aloft and saying, yeah, I trust you. I know you can do this. So I want to tell you a couple of fun things about passion. I read about a fellow who was a college professor, and he had a 7-year-old daughter. And she said to him one day, Daddy, what do you do when you go to work? And he said, I teach people to draw. And she looked at him wide-eyed and she said, you mean they forget? and the other person was Maurice Sendak, the wild thing, who wrote Where the Wild Things Are. Well, I read a report by him. He got a fan letter from a little boy once. And so he decided to answer it, and he sent the little boy a postcard with a drawing of a wild thing on it. And a short time later, the boy's mother got to Sendak and said he loved it so much, he tore up the postcard and ate it. Now that's passion. So what is passion? It's really enthusiasm. It gives us power. It speaks to what we're curious about. You know, one of the things I just thought of is my wife really got interested in doing this whole visual thing. She got so into it that she's let herself become an expert on it. It's passion is what we do, and time seems to stand still. It's what we do that we would probably do for free, even if they didn't pay us, because we had to do it. And you know, it's really interesting. They have done experiments on passion where they go in to an elementary school class, let's say like a 2nd grade class, and they say to the kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they get all these answers, you know, policeman, policewoman, fireman, firewoman, astronaut. The kids just, you know, are unbounded. They go to high schools and they ask the same question and they don't get anything. By the time our kids are 14, 15, 16, somehow the passion's gone. So I want to tell you a story about passion that was so touching to me. I worked as a consultant at one point, and I did what's called outplacement counseling. We help people when they lost their jobs to do their resumes, to develop a marketing plan, and we worked with all levels of people. But I worked with a lot of guys who were top level executives, and I was working with one fellow, and he got a year's severance pay in a lump sum. And those were the guys that you love to work with because it was easy to motivate them to look for another job. You would say, how many times in your life are you going to get $250,000 in a lump sum? As soon as you find a job, you can bank the rest. Well, it didn't work with him. I couldn't motivate him. No matter what, he just just wasn't doing it. And so I asked him one day, I said to him, what's going on with you? And he said, I hate what I do. I hate it. He said, but look at all the money I make. I got a wife. I got 3 kids. I got a mortgage. I got car payments. He said, the thought of going back to that is really killing me, but I don't know what else to do. So I said to him, what would you like to do if you could do anything? And he held up his hands. He said, I like to make wood furniture. I'd like to make my wood furniture and sell it for a living. He said he had a big house, 3-car garage, and one of the bays was where he worked on his furniture. So I said to him, what if we worked on a dual track here? We'll get your stuff so you can get a job. How long is it going to take you to be independent enough to go into your own business? He said 3 years. I said, okay, we'll work on a 3-year plan for you to get out of corporate life and to be doing your furniture. So we do it. And what was supposed to be our last session, he said to me, my wife really wants to meet you, and she couldn't come today, so let's meet next week, and my wife and I are going to buy you lunch. They come in, this story always grabs me still, and it's 25 years ago. And she asked him if she could meet with me one-on-one without him. And he said, sure. And when he left, she said, I know you're his counselor, but could this meeting be confidential between you and me? And I said, yes. And she started to cry. And she said, thank you, thank you. You gave me back my husband. And you gave 3 children back their father. And I said, what do you mean? She said, he can never know this. I was ready to leave him. I've seen a divorce lawyer twice. He had nothing going in his life. He wasn't the man I married. And then one night he comes home from a meeting with you. And he was his old guy. He held this. He said, look at this. I remember her name. Look at this. I got a 3-year plan to get out of doing what I'm doing and to build my furniture. And they went over the plan, and she said, you know what I told him? And I said, what? She said, I told him, to hell with a 3-year plan. Let's do it in a year. We're behind you. We love you. And the whole time, she was crying. And she said, I don't know how to thank you for putting a family back together because you helped somebody else get in touch with the passion in their life. And then she got up, and she came over and we hugged, and she gave me a big kiss on each cheek, and she gave me a big wink, and she said, the garage isn't the only place he got his passion back. You know, passion doesn't wear out. It dies because of lack of use. And we all, at some point or other, are going to hit a plateau. And then we need to make a decision. Do I go down or do I look for the peak? It's, you know, if we don't answer the call, then we get stuck in a rut. And we never get to be who we're supposed to be. I read that somebody asked Mozart, why do you compose music? And he said, because I have to. That guy that's sitting with my wife over there, his name is Eddie Watkins Jr. He's a fabulous musician. And I've never asked him this question, but I'm betting if I said, Eddie, why do you compose music? He'd say, because I have to. He's shaking his head, yes. And so I would like to ask you, you don't just everybody answer it on your own. What is it that you have to do? What is it that you have to do that brings you so much excitement and so much joy that you have to do it? And if you know what it is, do it. And if you don't know what it is, find out and then do it. So I want to just tell you, I want to tell you one last story. I do have a handout that we can pass out. It's not something I did. It's something we got off the internet about how to really create. Let me see it. You know what? I'll just. It's. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to give you all of them.
Oh.
But if you could just pass these out. What it is, it's a simple, easy way to write your life purpose statement. And I also would just like to say, before we close, if any of you know anybody back in your companies or anybody else that would have benefited by being here and hearing this, let me know, and maybe we could work it out. So I want to close with one last story. Rachel Remen is a doctor, an MD, and she has a place in Northern California. She has a place in Northern California where she works with people that have serious illnesses or their families to help people get through it, either to get through it or to become comfortable with whatever is going to happen.
Excuse me.
And that was a bad idea to do it in the middle of the talk. So one day, she was contacted by a resident in psychiatry. And he asked her if he could sit in on one of her sessions and see what unfolded, to see what it was about. And she said yes. And the session he sat in on was Rachel and a young man who had been a former gangbanger. He was covered with tattoos all over. And what he was telling Rachel was how much he loved his young wife who was dying of cancer. And he told her, he said, I met her and I discovered a capacity to love that I never knew I had. That woman healed me. And he spoke to her about tender moments and loving moments in their relationship. And at some point, Rachel looked up at this young resident and she said to him, tell me, did you learn, she looked up at the young resident and he had put his pad and pen down and he was crying. After the session, she went to him and she said to him, tell me, did you learn anything worthwhile today? And he said, yes, I did. I learned we're all more than we seem. We're all more than we seem. And that's true about every one of us. You know, just like Heschel said about finding the concretizing capacity